Hello and welcome to this video all about Ceres Retrograde in Capricorn in 2024. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mikas. I'm in Pioneer, California.
In this video, we're going to talk about what Ceres is and why Ceres matters to you, and what Ceres feels like when she's in Capricorn and what Ceres Retrograde feels like. And then we're going to show you some particular dates with milestones of this time period and give you advice about how to handle them. So, Julia, let's start just kind of thinking aloud about Ceres. So Ceres is, of course, an asteroid goddess. Her themes are the things that connect us with the material world, the food that we eat, our bodies that we live in, and probably mostly for people, the money that we make and how we, secure ourselves in the world. And so this year Ceres is going retrograde, as she always does, for about 4 months, and doing it this year in the sign of Capricorn. And so this brings on a reevaluation period for all of those physical world things. And we'll all be experiencing this, and some people will experience it more than others. So some people will be rethinking, like, how am I eating? Is my eating really supporting my health long term? How are my health habits? Do I need to, redo them? Do I need to set up better rhythms and routines? And how do I manage my money? And am I happy with my earning? Do I deserve more? And how do I get that? How do I manage my money? How do I budget, save, spend, and record keep around it? So, Julia, I'm wondering what your thoughts are, first of all, about, Ceres retrograde and what people should pay attention to while Ceres is retrograde. Just totally putting aside the whole idea of Capricorn for the minute. We'll do that shortly, but, Ceres retrograde itself.
Yeah, well, anytime a planet or asteroid goes retrograde, and by retrograde, we mean that the planet appears to be moving backwards. That if we had a telescope, because you need a telescope to see Ceres, we would actually watch Ceres slow down in the sky until she appeared like she was stationed or stopped in the sky. And then she does appear to be moving backwards over the path that she just crossed. We all know that this is not actually happening because all of the planets and asteroids are moving forward in our solar system at all times, but it is an optical illusion. So, but we astrologers find it very significant. And the way we symbolically look at retrogrades is that this is a time of almost going a little bit back over the things in your life that that planet or asteroid represents. So they're associated with times of review, redoing things. Yeah, so that's the basics on a retrograde cycle.
Yeah, and I want to add that the fact that it's a visual illusion does not actually mean that it is or should be meaningless, because it's a visual illusion because we observe it from our vantage point here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's measuring from a vantage point that has that retrogradation appear to happen. And it is a very measurable phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk about Ceres in Capricorn. Like, how does the Capricorn placement impact Ceres? Julia, what are your thoughts? And then I'll embellish.
Well, I think you're right when you say that Ceres has some natural rulership over an earth sign, the earth sign Taurus. So Capricorn is another earth sign. Ceres, and I think you're absolutely right in seeing this, is a very earthy asteroid in a lot of ways because it is so physical, so material. Capricorn is also a very earthy, physical, material sign as well. What Capricorn represents is Capricorn is a sign of social consciousness, of hierarchies, of security, of ambition. Capricorn is the father archetype, the parent who sort of shows you the outside world and how it works. And by the way, any parent can play the father archetype. We're not, overly gendered about this. The mother can, but we're just using symbolic language here. And so it's about who you are in the outside world. It's climbing up that ladder at work, or getting social recognition, or even just being a pillar in your community, or the father or the mother figure, the parental figure in your family. But there's a sense of authority with Capricorn because it's naturally ruled by Saturn. They have some overlapping significations between Ceres and Capricorn, and I think security is a big one. But how does Ceres find that security? Well, it's going to be through a Capricornian kind of lens through this transit. And that's the security of having a good social position, being an authority figure. And security so often means in this modern world, money, and having that establishment in society.
Yeah, and I love that you pointed out that we're not overly gendered about this, because there's a difference between gender archetypes and gender stereotypes. Like an archetype is something that's there for you to step into, that's bigger than you are, and that lets you become bigger. Whereas a stereotype limits you. Like if you're seen only as a woman, if you're seen only as,
I love that.
a person of your ethnicity, then you're limited to that. Somebody is putting you in a very small box, which makes you out to be smaller than you actually are.
I love
But an
that.
archetype helps you to be bigger. So in that sense, we think of Ceres as the Earth Mother, and having the Earth Mother occupy the sign of the structuring father is quite a challenge. And I do think that, astrologers feel that Capricorn can be a rather punishing sign. It brings in constrictions and restrictions and limitations and makes you work hard for whatever you get.
Yeah.
So I think that Ceres traveling in Capricorn in general, whether retrograde or not, can feel like you're being tested. You're on your mettle to prove the value that you bring. And if you succeed in proving that, then you could ask for a pay rise, for example. So I think that Ceres in Capricorn makes you work a little bit harder for what you can get out of the transit, and can bring with it, the periodic feelings of, I'm just not as good as I thought I was, or maybe I should work a little harder, or maybe I need to make more sacrifices. Yeah. There's no sign like Capricorn for sacrificing short-term gratification in the service of a long-term goal. That's really Capricorn's whole deal.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's going to be a hard-working couple of months during this transit, probably, and with some tests involved and some pressure involved. And it's really an opportunity to prove, that you can eat on that diet schedule that you planned for yourself, or that you can prove your worth at work and come out of it earning more or positioned better, that you can earn the status that you may feel that you deserve, but if you're willing to show that, then you can attain it during a transit like this.
Yes. And, I think also, and I love how you brought up some of the differences between how Capricorn functions and how Ceres, the Earth Mother, and when I think of Ceres, I think of that amazement you get after a rainstorm, when all of a sudden all these flowers bloom out of nowhere, and it was spontaneous. It took no effort. It was just that the earth gives, if we let it's just going to provide, it's just going to give. Well, Capricorn does have that, I have to work for things. But I also think that a higher way of looking at Ceres and Capricorn is how getting a higher position, how getting some social recognition is about providing security, not having it be about chasing some inferiority complex or your ego, but just like, this position at work helps me provide for my children, lets me be that fountain that just can flow and can give them enough food to eat, and seeing that through a more of that Earth Mama way, which is just spontaneous giving and growth, that these structures and that these disciplines are what's going to ultimately give us that cornucopia.
That's lovely. Well, let's take a look at how this is going to play out in time. Let me turn on the screen share so that you can see. So on the right-hand side of the screen, we have the cycle of Ceres laid out in a sine curve, beginning when it started November 20th. Now, here's the thing to understand about retrogrades. Often you'll hear astrologers, including us, calling the retrograde portion of the cycle a cycle. We'll talk about a retrograde cycle, when really it's a patch. It's a phase of a greater cycle. Ceres greater cycle lasts for like a year and a half, and she'll have a retrograde portion that usually lasts 3 or 4 months during it. So that's what we are talking about for this year. It starts in May, but it is a part of the greater cycle that actually began when Ceres conjuncted the sun back in November of 2023. And when Ceres does conjunct the sun, she's usually moving really fast. And so we call that Financial Epiphany Day, because that point is a really great time to get yourself new accounting software, to begin a new way of eating, or find somebody like what they have now in department stores. You can go in there and like somebody will pick out your clothes for you, like a personal dresser. So this is a really good time to begin endeavors that will get you more grounded in your body, in how you eat and how you live financially. So this, which is also the beginning and end of the cycle, is really good for those sorts of new beginnings. And then comes the day when Ceres will enter its span. And its span for the year will be the degree that it's going to retrograde to, which is 7 degrees Capricorn. So it enters the span here before it even goes retrograde. And so you might even feel like some of the events that happened during this time period, during the retrograde between May 14 and August 26, you might even feel like some of these things that happen here harken back to events as early as late February. So, and I want to show you these dates over here. So here's November 20th, when the sun and Ceres conjuncted. And then the next milestone is February 28th. You see the sun is traveling away from Ceres, and Ceres is continuing to move direct. And here is Ceres entering the span. So she arrives in 7 degrees Capricorn, and this is the degree she will retrograde back to. That's why it matters. And then the next thing that happens is that Ceres is going to go retrograde May 14. So let's watch for that to happen. Here's March, April, May 14. And right here, and you know that Ceres is retrograde because the little red RX symbol is here. Now she's going to start traveling backwards. So we can watch this happening. Actually, I want to change this chart a little bit because it'll give you such a better view of this backwards motion. Let me make this a 0 Aries rising chart, but it's still set for the same date. And now the rising isn't going to move, and you'll see Ceres literally backing up, which she's going to do now until July 5th, which is the next milestone. So here's July 5th, and that's the day when Ceres opposes the sun precisely. We call this Financial Crisis Day, and it's happening at 14 degrees Cancer. So if that is your birthday, or if it's your half birthday or quarter birthday, then that's gonna really, you're gonna feel it. You're absolutely gonna feel it. It's gonna feel kind of personal, perhaps. And we call it Financial Crisis Day. I know that sounds a little crisisy, right? A little dramatic. And by that, I don't necessarily mean that it's going to be an actual crisis. It is a point of illumination. And that's because the sun is opposing Ceres and shining a spotlight on Ceres. And the sun is saying to Ceres, what are you doing over there? I'm going to illuminate it. I'm going to make it very visible. It's going to pop out. And so you can get an illuminating insight at that time. And then we watch Ceres continue retrograde until late August. Here is Ceres turning direct. And we know that because she's done being retrograde and now she is direct. So that's where the Ceres retrograde phase finishes. And after that, things will get a lot smoother. They'll start to untangle. But really here, November is where things are going to really ease out, because that is when Ceres leaves her span at 21 degrees of Capricorn. right about there. And it's even a little bit later than what you might call Ceres' shadow period, because she has started to speed up by then. But at that point, anything that you've really been experiencing during this Ceres retrograde should be coming to a firm closure. And then a couple of months later, in early 2025, in February, we have financial epiphany again, which is the end of the cycle and the beginning of the next one. Julia, what are your thoughts about the cycle and how people should respond to it?
Well, I remember, I think it was a year or two ago when Ceres turned retrograde, and you had said something about like, oh, this is going to rattle up some money on a global scale. And then I think the stock market took like a major dump that day. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I
I
kind
remember
of
you mentioning that.
yeah, those we all might get a little shaken, and if it's one thing or something happening internationally or with trade or something that kind of shakes us a little bit. But it's all part of the cycle of things, and money goes down, it comes up. So, just kind of, if any parts of the cycle shake you a little bit on a global scale, I mean, we've watched it happen before, and things just kind of bounce back up again over time.
Yeah, I think it's so important, especially when it comes to investments, to remember that the money isn't yours unless you actually sell whatever stock you've bought. Like you can take a loss, but it's not actually a realized loss unless you try to sell it at the reduced price.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, and this, I mean, I think a lot of people have an instinct for this, and some people have, dreadful instincts for this. And if you have dreadful instincts, you probably shouldn't be, engaging in stock trading. But sometimes all you have to do is sit on your hands and wait, for the mood to shift.
Yeah,
Because the stock market is really like, it's a group mood is what
it
it
really
is.
is. Yeah.
Like Elon Musk flutters his eyelashes and then like
Yeah.
there's a crash. And
Yeah.
like it so doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't matter. And the national mood will change again very
Absolutely.
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because Ceres is going to be doing its retrograde in Capricorn, I think a lot of people may experience this in their place of business. If you own a business, if you run a business,
Yeah.
because Capricorn is the sign of business and business leadership, you may really feel this there. And if you take our advice and really look at your financial systems and how they run, then you can come out of this transit with things better than they were before.
Definitely.
Just, no, don't panic, no panicking, not needed. This happens literally every year. And this year it just happens to be in Capricorn.
Mhm.
If you are a Capricorn and your sun is somewhere between 7 and 21 degrees of Capricorn, this will probably feel, pretty strong and pretty personal for you. In which case, double down on the advice we're giving you here today. Julia, any final thoughts?
No, I think we got it.
All right. Well, thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Find our site at pandoraastrology.com to get a reading with one of us, and find us on Patreon for workshops and classes. And we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.